And then I think, because the biggest part to getting what you want is really just being very clear and knowing what it is that you want. And the way to get to knowing what you want is that sometimes you just have to explore and try a bunch of different things in order to get to a place where you know what you want. So I feel like that's like kind of the first step in in negotiation is just getting that clarity of knowing what it is that you want.
I love that.
Is there more?
No. Thank you. Did you have more?
I mean, I always have more, but let's hear what other people have to say.
So, I completely agree. One of the things that's coming up is just this idea that I find myself constantly in this space of discovery. I'm actually laughing. I'm a little embarrassed because you said so many things where I'm like, oh, that's right. I didn't know I liked that. So I'm having a few flashbacks here. Y'all give me a minute. But as I got out and I began to discover, so when I got into kink, I was like, I'm a top. Like I don't like pain, I don't like to bottom, and it was really a protective mode because like I don't like to have people like in my space wanting to feel like they have control over me, things of that nature. So I was hyper defensive, and then a few years of like kind of like looking from the edges and seeing what people were up to, I was like, actually, I really like it when girls tell me what to do, like a lot. And I had this total switch of like who I knew myself to be when it came to connecting with people and communicating. And I'm like, okay, so now how do I actually talk about that? How do I share that with someone? Like what then becomes the benefit of having this self-discovery and like sharing this self-discovery with a person that you may not really know?
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to something that we were talking about before, which is the shame.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that is what really, really plays a part in people not discovering what they want. And then, even when they discover what they want, not asking for what they want. There is so much shame in, like I was saying before, just even the idea that you're going to ask for what you want. We put all of this just like benefit into the idea of like be a strong person, ask for what you want, be assertive. And I'm a very assertive person. I feel like I've gotten most of what I want from being assertive and asking for it. But it's really, really hard, especially when you're a strong person who is used to getting what you want, to ask for it specifically in these realms of relationship and sexuality, because all of that runs so deep with our self-worth. Sure, like you could be strong person, strong woman, be like, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to tell these people this and that and what they should do, and I'm going to make them respect me. But it's a very different thing to then go home and be like, and now I'm going to make my partner respect me,
Right.
and now I'm going to tell my partner, okay, this is exactly what I want and you better do this for me. And of course, nobody wants to be in a situation with somebody where they feel like, I'm doing, like, this person's doing this just because they want to make me happy. Like, you want to be in a sexual situation with somebody where both people are equally turned on and they're doing things because it feels really great. And so, I feel like there is always this fine line when you're navigating these kinds of sexual relationships with finding people that have the same interests as you and being able to like just kind of speak what you want and be okay with how it's received. And when it's not received, like if you're like, what, I really want to get my whatever is played with, and someone's like, okay, well, yeah, I don't like that. Being able to not take it like it's a personal thing, like, oh, well, they don't like me, and being able to realize everybody has a different thing that turns them on. And of course, when you're in a relationship with someone, you're in a committed relationship, you may want to try certain things for the other person, and you might be surprised. You might metamorphosize, and maybe you have something different than what you thought that you liked, and you discover that while playing with your partner doing the things that they wanted you to do. And that's wonderful when that happens. But also sometimes that doesn't happen. And I think it's okay for people to be like, we're in a great relationship, and there's these certain things that my partner doesn't like to do,
Mm.
and I don't necessarily need to make them do that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe depending on how your relationship works, maybe you can get that in other places. Or maybe it's something that you say, okay, well, you know what? Maybe it's not something that you need as much as you thought you did, but it still doesn't take away from the idea that speaking what you want is really important and really necessary to do, regardless of how it's going to be received or not.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, you really hit me in the heart there because I was like, shame. Yeah, that even sitting here in this station having this conversation, I'm like, I was totally like, I'm embarrassed, I'm flushed. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of these experiences came up, and I'm like, oh, we have these conversations to end shame. We have these conversations to break the silence and have the healing come to the forefront, and that comes through communication.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, really, that is the benefit of having this practice. And, that is exactly what stops people from getting what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just not being able to talk about it and not being able to express what they want, and I think that happens so much more frequently, is that people they just don't tell the other person what they want. And it's like there's this idea that I feel like young women and women in general are taught that, like, and people in general, if the other person loves you, they're gonna know how to read your mind.
Yes.
Right.
If they can't read your mind, they don't love you, or they weren't paying attention,
or they're not the one, or they aren't. You know what I mean? If it doesn't happen naturally, and we've all had natural connections with relationship disaster.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like it's not about that, and so like really digging deeper and being more curious is certainly a way to get to that discovery, but also it's a way to give freedom to just be okay with the exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you said about not being hooked on what the response is.
Yeah.
Do you have any words of wisdom that you generally share with, your clients about starter conversations, or maybe some things to think about to break the ice mentally on how to mention some things, or have conversations around what pleasures people want to experience, or even just personally how to have that exploration, because a lot of it is so mental.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And can I just throw in adding safe space to that conversation as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it first starts, like you said, with like a self-exploration, because if you're not clear in yourself about what's going on, and then you try to bring it to somebody else, first of all, you're going to feel a lot of shame, like we talked about, and you might be very easily willing to just sort of give up on the conversation because it feels too hard. And if the person says like, oh, well, I'm not into that or whatever, like that, you're not just really going to push for what you want, or if you just don't know what you want, it's very easy for other people to dissuade you from having that conversation or from getting what you want. So I think the first thing is to really, and I mean, it's like what I was saying, is to really just get clarity on what it is that you want and what it is that that excites you. And in today's world, we have so much media and so many ways that you can actually get information about different kinds of sexual practices and desires, that that's a really great way to just start to do some research, and masturbate. And just like be like, okay, what excites me? I used to, when I was younger, and I was out in the world and dating with people, and I would always feel like, and every time I would meet somebody, it would be very early on where they would be like, oh, let me try to kiss you, after like 5 minutes of knowing them, and I'm sure we've all had that experience, and and a lot of times I would give in because I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. But then I started to get to the point like when I really started to look at my own desires, I made it a practice with myself to like really just like sit with like, what do I want from this person, and imagine myself kissing them. And if the thought of kissing them didn't like excite me and get me going, oh my God, I really want to do that, Or if I felt like if I leave and go home, I'm going to wish that I kissed this person, that would be the only time I would do it. I stopped doing it just because, like, well, they want it and it's here and it's now,
Right.
And so
Wow.
that was a really good way of just like being able to really kind of explore what is it that I really, really want,
Wow.
and then it was like, okay, now can I imagine myself being naked with this person and how does that feel? So just taking it like piece by piece in my mind before I ever let it get to any kind of experience going any place deeper.
It's funny how that is probably the most authentic answer you'll get around connection. When you say, okay, if I can just hold that thought, what do I really feel about that moment? Because that person isn't present, I don't have the pressure. It's just me checking in with me on how I genuinely may feel in that moment. And I think it's one of the most honest opportunities we could have around attraction and beyond. It's the beyond part that we usually get stuck with. Because we weigh so much on what we say or what we think that person's gonna perceive or what we think we can get.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if we're real.
Or if any of it will mean we'll be single for longer.
Mm-hmm.
We treat some of the relationships like it's a bargaining tool for our self-worth.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't gotten a phone number in so many months and this person's interested in me, I might as well, go on this date or kiss this person or go ahead and have sex or whatever because I know when I get another date, those are the things that we do.
Oof, the mine as well dates. I mean, that's a tough one, and I can't say that I haven't been there. I'm sure that many of us have. I want to just acknowledge the point that you made. Like, this is such a simple tool that's taking a second to imagine. It's like I forgot the benefit of fantasy.
Yes.
Like when I was a teenager, just to sit and daydream about a cute somebody it was wonderful. And as an adult, I feel ashamed. Like I don't want to have those girlish, like I don't want to have a crush. Like I'm beyond that.
Wait a minute.
And we may not want to, I call it
perform.
I totally identify with what you're saying because I'll tell Melanie like, you know what, this person is hot, but I don't know if I want to do anything about it. You know what I mean? Because just because you're attracted to someone doesn't mean you want to do something about it. So I make this joke, about like, do I want to perform? Like I don't know if I want to perform.
But that's another thing too that actually brings up a whole other point because there is this pressure. Once you actually acknowledge that you have attraction to somebody, then there becomes this pressure, and I felt like that too, where sometimes I'll be like, you know what, I'm feeling like I'm sort of interested in this person. I want to get to know them more, but I don't want to tell them, hey, I kind of like you and I'm interested in getting to know you because then it's going to become a thing.
Right.
And then I'm like, but maybe I'm not that attracted to you. Maybe I'm not ready to jump into bed with you. I'm just ready to start thinking about maybe holding your hand. And then maybe kissing you or something down the line. But it becomes this pressure and it becomes this whole thing. And that's why I feel like if we could find a way to just like alleviate that. And I used to always call it Spyce's rule of cash, which is basically just about like being more casual about our desires, about our relationships, that not everything is like this whole end all be all. Like, you meet somebody, you're attracted. Oh my God. Like now we're going to be together. It's like, you know what? I'm just trying to get to know you right now.